Hi everyone, it's Ryan with SacramentoAppraisalBlog.com, and I was asked recently by a real estate agent for some tips for pulling data, neighborhood-specific data. Okay, it's one thing to report on zip code trends or county-wide trends, but what is happening in a specific neighborhood? And so I want to give some tips that would be relevant for this agent, many other agents, and hopefully appraiser colleagues too. Okay, I've been pulling data in counties and neighborhoods for many, many years, and I've learned a lot along the way. So this will probably be about 10 minutes or so. I'm going to give you also a chart that I might suggest using. And you can do with this as you see fit. You can download it in the YouTube description, change it, make it better. You do you. So anyway, what I want to do is pull data from a specific neighborhood. So in MLS, I've gone to draw and I've gone to the polygon tool and I've drawn boundaries over the Rosemont area, the Rosemont neighborhood boundaries. Now, some in Rosemont might include this area. That's fine. You do you. It's okay. But I want to know, what has the market done in this specific area? All right. And so what I want to do first is I'm going to look at single family sales. I want to only look at one sales on one lot. If I include condos also, there's actually going to be a number of other sales that end up popping up. And I don't want condos because condos tend to dilute data. Okay, there's more condo sales that sell at lower prices, and there's also a higher volume of cash sales for condos. Okay, if you're in Sacramento, just know that Trend Graphics does not include condos in their data, and I don't include condos in my data that I report either because it's really a different market. So just food for thought as you consider sharing data in the neighborhoods you work in. Okay, so I want to include just sales. I want to look at only sales in November. Now, this might seem really anal, but don't pull your sales data on December 1st. Why? Because not all sales from November or whatever month you're working in are going to be showing up as sales, most likely on the 1st. Okay, there might be some pendings in this neighborhood, and it's probably going to take about a week or so for these pendings to actually be entered in MLS from agents and brokerages and show up as sales. It actually were November sales. All right, I pull countywide data every single month, and trust me, it takes about 7 days to maybe 10 days for about 10% of the pendings to be entered as legitimate sales for that month. Okay, so if I pull all my data on the first, I'm going to have some wonky figures. I'm going to be saying the market's doing this one thing when in fact, maybe it's not because I've missed 10% of the sales volume. So anyway, long story short, you've checked all sales from November. Click this tab up here, statistics. Now we could do all this manually, but our MLS has this great tab, and check it out. So once I click this statistics tab, come on MLS. I love MLS, but sometimes okay, there we go. Sometimes. Anyway, so you'll see it lists all sales. There's some really valuable. Here's all the list price. Here's the selling prices. So there's a median price, average price. I'm going to show you how you get average price per square foot, cumulative days on market. There is a lot of instant data that we can record here. So here's a sheet, and I want to begin filling this out. So for November 2017, I've labeled this. The median price was 304,000. Okay, the average sales price was 320,887, and the average price per square foot, how do we get that? Well, we are going to divide the average sales price, 320,887, divided by the average square foot, 1507 equals 212.9. Okay, so sales volume, there were 15 sales. Cumulative days on market, the average is 25. Some people pay attention to the median too. I actually pull both when I'm pulling countywide stats. Maybe pay attention to both, see which one works for you. Now, if you were pulling other data, you could easily look at short sales, REOs, you could look at inventory level, FHA buyers, cash buyers. There's really a lot that you can report on. Again, just ask yourself, what do your clients want to know, or what do you want to put in your newsletter, or what do you want to write in that blog post, because you can track that sort of data. Okay, this took just a minute here. Now, what I want to do is compare November 2017 with November 2016. Okay, I want to compare the market in equal chunks. Okay, it's really valuable for me if I pull this data once a month. I can actually look back at my stats last month and ask, how did the market change from October to November? Maybe I saw the median price go up or down, and maybe I see sales volume changing, and that's fine. But when I'm reporting on where the market's at and where value is at, I want to compare the market in equal chunks and gauge the price difference from November 2016 to November 2017. Okay, here's a quick analogy. Imagine that you're on a diet. I'm actually on a diet right now. Okay, have you ever stepped on the scale in the morning and you're really excited? You're thinking, I lost a couple pounds. But then the next day, you can step on the scale in the afternoon after you've had 2 meals, and then it might look like you gained 2 pounds from the previous morning. And there's a scale problem. The problem is that you're stepping on the scale at the wrong time of the day, and you're not comparing the weight market, so to speak, in equal parts. And so if you want to get an accurate reading for weight, you would step on the scale at the same time every day, whether that's the morning or after dinner, after lunch, whatever you choose, because your body is sort of behaving the same way and in its pattern at that time. The same thing happens with real estate data. If we want to know what is the market doing in November, it's really important to compare November to November. If you're in a neighborhood with not enough stats, make sure maybe you look at quarterly data, okay? Because then there's going to be more data to be meaningful. If you have 3 sales in a neighborhood, it might not be meaningful at all to look at the median price, because you might get some really, really wonky stats, okay? So with that being said, let's go back and let's pull some data from November 2016. All right. And then we'll click statistics. If you're not in Sacramento area, you might, and here we go, MLS acting up again, not showing me the stats right away. Hopefully a second time's a charm. Okay, here we go. So 2016 data, let's input some of that. The median price was $284,750. Okay, the average price was $320. Let's calculate the average price per square foot. Do you remember how to do that again? Okay, 320 divided by the average square footage, which was 1650, and that equals 182.0. Okay, sales volume 30. That's interesting. A lot more sales last November. Cumulative days on market was 29 as an average. Okay, and you can get so much more out of there too. But here we spent just a couple minutes pulling some data. Most of the time I've just been rambling, but let's calculate the change. How much has the market changed? Well, let's take the median price, 304,000 minus 284,750 equals 19,250. That's the change. Okay. Now what we want to do, we want to divide that by the number last year. So divided by 284,750 equals 6.7%. So the market this year is up by 6.7%, the median price. The average sales price, 320,887 minus 320 equals 20,500 basically. Okay, let's divide that by the 2016 number, divided by 320 equals, the average price per square foot is up 0.68%. Excuse me, that was the average price. Okay, average price per square foot, 212.9 minus 182 equals 30.9 divided by 182 equals, that's up plus 16.9%. Gosh, was that accurate? Let me make sure I ran that number right. It just seems like that's steep. Okay, 320 divided by 1650 equals 182. Yeah, gosh. Sometimes when I pull stats and then I get one number that looks a little different, I just double check just to be sure. Did I run my numbers right? Um, because if I'm reporting the wrong numbers, that's not a good thing. So let's just double check. And this is exactly why we want to make sure that we're looking at average price per square foot, average sales price, and median price. Because sometimes when we are running the numbers, we can say, well, values rose by 16%. Well, okay, that seems a little inflated, but sometimes the stats are showing us 6% and 7%, then you get 16%. We might really want to just say, look, most metrics have risen by about 7%. Okay. Anyway, so here is the average price, 320,887 divided by 1507. Okay, so that was a difference. Now here's an interesting thing. Um, it looks like the smaller houses have sold this November. Okay, so that is essentially increased this number quite a bit. Okay, we noticed that in our research, and so we see this huge number here, and maybe that huge number is a reflection of smaller houses having sold. Okay, so it's good to know how to think through the numbers. Sorry for the little detour there, but that was an interesting observation. Okay, here's sales volume. Interesting, 15 less sales this year, and so that's minus 50%. And so when we report on market stats, we could say, well, sales volume is actually down by about half this year. I'm not sure why that is without digging into it further, but it's an interesting stat, and that could be reflective of the housing shortage, or maybe there are a ton of properties that are pending right now that haven't closed yet. Cumulative days on market, minus 4 days. And so we would say that yes, the market's experiencing maybe around 7% upticks when we look at most price metrics, and it looks like the market's taking about 4 less days to sell, which shows that despite the market showing a seasonal slowing, we're seeing that it's taking less time to sell, and so the market is likely a little bit more aggressive this year compared to last year. Okay, so we could go on and pull whatever stats we want, but this is sort of, I think, an introduction into some of the things that we might do when we initially pull some stats and when you're working a certain neighborhood. Just ask yourself what's going to be meaningful for your target audience. Make sure you're comparing the market in similar chunks. If you do a yearly review, make sure you're doing all of 2017 versus all of 2016. Okay, we're going to get the most accurate stats that way. And just ask the question, how does the market normally behave in November? What does the market normally do in December? So we can look at multiple years of December to figure that out. Okay, and then how does the market normally change from November, December? All right, it sounds like a lot of work, but if we pull these stats on a regular basis for a neighborhood we're working in, it takes a matter of a couple minutes, literally, but it helps us wrap our mind around what does the market normally look like at this time? What does a seasonal market normally look like? Okay, this is good for business. It helps you be your market's expert. And it also helps you plan for business. If you see a certain trend in the neighborhood or the county and you think, wow, this is informing me that, sales volume is doing this certain thing or prices are, doing this other thing, and it helps you give real estate advice and maybe helps you spot who your future clients might be too. So anyway, that's that. I hope it was helpful. If you liked it, give a thumbs up to the video. Thanks so much.